Tom, being the supreme angler that he is, has managed to snare a massive gigantic fish last night, and Danny, aka Legrand Fromage, has allowed us to sack it up. And we're going to get the fish out of the water and weigh him up now and show you some new Daiwa bits as we're doing it. But first of all, we've got a Daiwa weigh sling again here that we've been allowed to use by Danny, again because it's never touched any water, it's brand spanking new. And if you're going to get a big fish out of the water, then if you can put it into the weigh sling like that first and lift it out in that, it's much safer for the fish. And these Daiwa ones have got a really nice drainage on the bottom of them, so the water comes out reasonably quickly. And I'm just checking his fins are flat against his body, not bent back the wrong way. And I'll zip this up at the front. Like so, and then hand him to the owner. Oh, God, that's heavy, man.
I think I'm going to struggle, won't I?
God, mate, that's heavy. Got it? It's always good if there's two of you when you're doing this. He's a big one, Thomas. He's a big one.
Massive, isn't it?
The zip's at your side.
It's going to be well lively because he's been in the sack for a few hours.
We only use tracker sacks here because they're really well made, and you can clip the cord on at either end. What one is he? It's the German, isn't it? I'm going to get the Legrand Fromage in just to tell us. It's the German, you can tell by the tail. Fish we call the German fish, not been out since last October, I think. Good skills, Thomas. Right, do you want to pull that from that way? Yeah, that's it. Beautiful. Right.
What's a massive old fish?
And zip that other end up, just be careful of his tail.
Yeah, I'll take that.
So we've got one of the Daiwa tripods here that literally just unclips, goes in a much smaller bag than you can actually see it here. Very sturdy, nice and lightweight. Right, do you want to lift him and I'll put that onto there.
I'll try.
Get a nice accurate reading. Oh, sorry, Tom.
Back's going, Dan.
There we go. Take the weight. There we go. Right, it's dead still, other than when the fish thrashes about. And he is, I think he's just under 54 there. He is 50, oh, it's just dropped down.
54.12.
I think he's probably just let go of a couple of cell boilies there.
That's fine.
He's just lost 2 ounces. Actually going down a little bit as the water, just a little bit of water just draining out. 53.9, mate, we're giving you on that one.
All big enough.
New PB for France?
It is new PB for France.
Good skills, son. Good skills. Right, let's have him off.
Let's down.
That's it, that's off.
My first absolute giant from Gigantica, and as you can see I'm really struggling to hold this. It's caught my new Infinity DFs and my favoured end tackle. It's getting back, so I've been doing pictures, my arms are properly aching.
There are two new bed chairs in the Infinity range. First of all, the big Infinity, quite a bit wider than the original Infinity bed chair, which is still available. The same features on it, so we've got the padded pillow up at this end, nice padding all the way down, very hard wearing material, and then a cover for your boots. So you can take that off if you want to, that's just velcroed on, but obviously it stops the end of the bed chair getting muddy. And for a big bed chair, still incredibly lightweight. 3-leg bed chair, this one. Let's move over to the Deluxe. This one is brand spanking new. I think this is probably the only one in the world at the moment. I've been sleeping on this one since I started here on this session, and I have to say it's probably the most comfortable bed chair I've ever slept on. And the reason it is so comfortable is this detachable cover. You see there, that will come off if you want it to, but to be honest, once you've slept on it with the cover, I don't think you'll ever take it off. We've still got a padded pillow at the end here that you can flip out the way if you don't want to use it. Normally I use my own pillow, but to be honest, I found that to be really comfortable, that one, just the right thickness. And all I've been doing is putting my sleeping bag over the end. It still goes over the end of the bed chair, that end, and over this end as well to lock it in place. And that has been super, super comfortable. And again, reasonably lightweight. It's a little bit heavier because it has got the mattress on it, and it's got 4 legs as well, so that makes it even more stable. When the legs click into position, there's a little pin that holds them there, so there's no way that the legs can collapse in. And just like all the Infinity bed chairs, it's got huge feet on it, which I really like. They swivel around, they're not going to press into the mud, and they keep everything extremely stable. So if you want a good night's kip, trust the Infinity bed chairs. The Daiwa chairs are extremely well made and also very comfortable. The one I'm sitting in now is the Mission adjustable chair, and it's the one that I use as my guest chair. And it's weird, when you've got several guest chairs sitting around, people always sit in this one first because of the armrests. And it does make a difference, definitely. Still fairly lightweight, a nice green colour as well. Can recommend this one as a guest chair or if you're doing day sessions. And then moving over to this comfortable fella here, this is the Infinity recliner chair, and that is, oh, delightful. You can lay in that all day long, almost like a bed chair, this one. If you're doing just day sessions, I can't recommend this one strongly enough. It reclines back completely flat, so you could sleep on it as well if you wanted to. And for the size of it, still extremely lightweight. So if you need a day chair or a guest chair, look no further than Daiwa. Daiwa's luggage has always been known for being very high quality and having lots of features. So let's have a look at the rod bags first of all. We've got 2 in the range here. The first one, if I can just open these tags up, we've got pockets on the outside for your landing net and pole there, and then a large pocket there for all your bank sticks and everything else that you need to put in that one. And then if I zip it open, we can show you the inner compartment. There we go. So we've got 3 made up rods in there, lots of protection on those as well, just to keep all the eyes and everything absolutely perfect. And then on the other side, we've got 3 more sections there for rods that haven't got reels on. So I've still got these in the cloths bags for extra protection, but there's nice padding on there and they all Velcro down as well. So that's a sort of standard one for people who are fishing with 3 rods. And then this big fella here, if I can unclip this, there we go. Right, now we've got the same pockets on the outside, so we've got the big one there that you would put your landing net in, and then a smaller one there for all your bank sticks, and that goes right down low so you can get your hand in there. That's really good. And then if I open him up to reveal how many rods we've got in here, you can probably already tell from the couple of things there that it's going to be more. So on the side closest to me, we've still got our 3 rods without reels on, not made up, loads of protection for those. And then on this side, check that out, we've got 6 rods made up there, 3 going that way and then 3 going that way, and you can Velcro them all in. There's covers to go over the eyes at the top, and obviously this big flap over there to keep it all nice and protected. So high protection rod holders. Let's have a look at the rest of the range. Next up, it's the bait storage systems, and to start with the simplest one and the one I use the most, the air dry bag, made of really robust material, nice handles on it as well so you can hang it up in a tree. That'll take 10 key of boilies, believe it or not. And the next one down is the bucket bag, got a stiff rim on there. I've just got some boilies in it this time, but you can pull that away and you've got a nice wet bag inside. So if you wanted to use that for your spod mix, you could, no problem. Of course, when there's nothing in it, it packs down to virtually 0. And then this fella here, if I open up the top, we've got a cool bag in there that I've got probably 7 or 8 kilos of boilies in. That'll take 10 key easily. And if you put them in frozen and keep that zipped up, they can stay frozen for pretty much all day. So good for long sessions. Nice pocket at the front for your funnel webs and that sort of stuff. And then these two speed pockets at the side. That one there is for your pop-ups. And then one the other side is for your rig bits and pieces. So we've got a rig board in there and then some sleeves in for your different rig items. So a multi-purpose bag for that one. And then this fella here, slightly bigger and takes even more boilies. If we open this one up, we've got the same compartment inside. So you've got a nice cool bag compartment inside. That's 10 kilos of cell in there, believe it or not. So you probably get 15 key in there easily. And again, if you leave that zipped up, they'll stay frozen quite a long time in there. In the top of it, we've got another storage thing for your pop-ups. So 6 pots in there for different hook baits. And then as usual, we've got nice pockets on the front and pockets on the side as well for bits and pieces, funnel web, PVA, that sort of stuff. All extremely well made, nice handles on them as well. And finally, the rucksacks and tackle bags, starting off with this fella, the 75 litre rucksack. Loads of room in there, huge storage pocket at the front that will take a big tackle box in there. Side pockets as well, and then 2 on that side. And then a huge compartment in the middle. It's going to take everything you absolutely need. Very, very well made like the rest of it. Nice padding on the back, nice straps. Going to be able to walk for miles with that one on. There's a 50 litre version as well in that same design. And then moving down to this carry-all, just put that down. I'll just put all the different bits inside there just to show you how much it will take. So these are some of the other things in the range. So we've got tackle box on that side. And then rig wallet and loads of clear sleeves for your hooks and bits and pieces in that one. Next up, we've got a nice compact food pack there. Then this very, very durable spool case for keeping your Bezier spools or whatever. I've got 4 Bezier spools in that one. You have a spool of line in there and 3 other spools as well. Next up, we've got one of the rig wallets. That takes 2 different lengths of hook links. And then another hard case, really like these ones, they're going to protect everything inside. And I've put a few bits of funnel web and that sort of thing in there. That takes 2 20-metre refills in each of those. And there's a few extra of these dividers, they just Velcro in. There's a few extra of those that come with it, so you can divide it up exactly how you want it. And things like marker float is going to be perfect in there because it is so well padded. Now that's that one. And then in this fella, we've got another pop-up pot. And I've got one in the front pocket here. I can find the zip. There we go. Got another rig wallet there for rigs the same length. So loads of little bags in that one and a nice size carry-all, that one. And then finally, we've got like a tackle station that's also a bivvy table. We've got a couple of things in there for putting your leads in and that sort of thing. Pop-up pots in there, something for funnel webs in the middle or your marker floats or whatever. There's a rig board on it and then loads of sleeves there for keeping different bits and pieces in. And you've even got lots of dividers that you can Velcro in to suit everything that you're going to carry in there. So loads of different bits in the range. I'm sure there's going to be something there for everyone.
Something really, really exciting for you guys now. The world's first ever look, the first ever sneak preview of Korda's new range of floater fishing gear. Something we've been working on for a long time, nearly 2 years in development. It's a range of lines, 2 different types of controller and some dedicated floater hooks which have never been done before for surface fishing. So before we get into the actual terminal items, let's just look at the actual setup that we're going to use and then I'll take you through all the components and the new products in detail. So first of all, for our floater fishing, most of the guys here using the Daiwa rods, and I personally favour, and I know Dan uses as well, the Infinity Slim. It's a very, very soft but powerful blank, so it's capable of dealing with 30-pound fish if you need to, but it's got a very through action, so you can use 6-8-pound hook links without any problems. It's a 2-pound test curve, as I said, and I've twinned that up with a Korda X reel. Very small, lightweight, you don't need big pit reels clumbering up your gear. It's a lightweight rod, so twin it with a lightweight reel. It's got a lovely clutch as you would expect from Daiwa and the line lay is fantastic. So that combination you can hold in your hand all day long with a controller out there. It's not like the normal big pit reel and a big rod combination that gets a bit heavy or is tip heavy. This sits up in the hand, it's responsive and light, which is very important because when you are surface fishing, you're often holding the rod all day long, waiting to strike at a bite. So that's the rod and the reel. Loaded up on there, I've got the new Korda cruiser line, which is a dedicated surface line. I'll show you the actual spools in detail shortly, but as you can see, it's a clear line, it floats, it's got very high knot strength and it's very, very soft. So all the attributes that you need. It's got controlled stretch as well, which means you can set hooks effectively at most ranges. And basically it's the first ever, as far as I know, dedicated surface line. I'm going to show you now how to set up the interceptor float. Sits flat on the surface, main line runs right through the middle, down the stem and out the front of the float. Now I've got 10-pound cruiser control in this instant on the reel, nice and strong, but will cast a very long way indeed. So this runs through the float, terminates in a size 11 ring swivel, and as you can see, that just sits in the nose like this in a semi-fixed fashion. Means that it's totally safe. If you lose a float for whatever reason, the fish can get rid of it easily just by pulling the swivel out. Now you'll also notice that at the front end of the float, it's kind of a little bit concave, it's scalloped out. That's very, very deliberate because that adds resistance to a taking fish, which means that you can set the hook, or the hook will set itself independently of you striking. It's kind of a bolt rig system. So we use that in conjunction with a shortish hook link, and that works very well indeed. So this size 11 ring swivel, we will then attach a hook link, which I'll show you now. I've tied this up from 6-pound cruiser control. It's going to be about 3 feet long. As I said, it's a self-hooking surface controller, this type. So a shorter hook link tends to work better than a really long one. 3 feet, you won't get many tangles, and it's just far enough to sit the bait away from the float. Now I've terminated this 6-pound hook link in a size 10 mixer hook. 6 pound for open water fishing conditions, no weed, fish up to maybe mid doubles is absolutely fine. There's other choices in the range right up to 12 pound to suit whatever conditions you're faced with. Now I'm just going to tie this onto the front end of the controller now. Again, a 5-turn grinner knot or a Palomar is absolutely fine. Now cruiser control, mono, like any line, works best when the knots are lubricated thoroughly and pulled down evenly, and it will give you a very nice neat finished knot without any crinkling or damage. As you can see there, we'll just pull that into the nose of the float like so. Now look at that, absolutely beautiful. There's no marks or anything on the line. For a line that's so soft, that's quite remarkable. Now I'm a big fan of these plastic imitation chum mixers from Enterprise Tackle. The bait itself has a cavity on one side that takes a split shot. Now that's quite a good design feature because it means that when you place the hook through the other side of the bait on the opposing face, it means that the hook will always sit uppermost. Now when it's set up correctly, this is how it should sit. It will sit in the surface film like so. Now what happens when you want to cast out a little bit further, or perhaps even shorter, and you want a smaller float? Well, it's very, very simple with the interceptor, completely interchangeable. You just push the stem like so, and as the body comes up the line, you will see that due to its unique slot, it just falls off the line very, very easily like that, which means you can then change it. In this instance, I'm putting on a larger 30 gram. You just drop the line into the slot like so. Very, very quick and straightforward. Run it down onto the stem, and there you go. Straight away, you're back in action. Larger or smaller, completely interchangeable. That's the interceptor. That's the rig that I use for fishing it. Very, very effective. We'll look at the cruiser next. And this little darling is the cruiser. Now this is an upright, vertical sitting skittle type float in a more conventional sort of style, but there's a few unconventional things that we've incorporated into the design. First of all, like the Interceptor, as I said earlier, this is made purely of self-material and air. It's a unique design that we've patented, and it means that you don't need any lead weights or anything else. It just cocks on its own using this air cavity inside the body here. It means that it doesn't dive on impact, and it casts much more quietly into the swim, which is vitally important when you're surface fishing. How does it work? Different to everything else. The line actually comes in through the top of the float, through this hole, and exits out of the side through this port on the side here. The float is effectively on the end of the line, almost like a lead weight on a helicopter style rig. So there's not much to tangle at all. The hook link comes out of the side and lays across the surface in that manner. And it's also very, very good for controlling the actual float itself. If you want to mend the line or pull the float into position, because you're in direct control with the very top of the float, it's much easier to do without too much disturbance. So we brought the line through there, and we'll attach the sleeve which is supplied with it. It's a small rubber sleeve designed for semi-fixing the swivel, which I will show you. So we'll just thread that onto the line there, like so. And then we will tie on the size 11 ring swivel. There you have it, swivel and sleeve together, and they pull up inside the port on the side in that manner. Okay, now I'm going to show you my favourite floater rig. Comprises of two of the new products, Cruiser Control Mono, which I'm going to use in 8-pound breaking strain, and a size 8 mixer hook. First of all, take the end of the line and tie a small overhand loop knot in the end. When you're fishing a cruiser or any kind of upright skittle type float, I do prefer to fish a long hook link, as long a hook link as you can get away with usually. I've gone up to 12 feet in the past, and usually no less than 6 feet. So we pass that through the back of the eye as normal. Pull it all the way down. Now we're going to use a very small imitation floating bait with this, so we want quite a short hair. So hopefully you can see that. We're going to tie it off something like that sort of length. We'll make a couple of turns coming down below the eye. Always remember to make the first turn on the side opposite to where the eye is formed. Okay, now what I like to do is whip down almost to the middle, level with the point, about there, if you can see that. And what we're going to do now is whip the other side of the hair so that we can stand the hair out vertically away from the hook. So we pull the hair out of the way and start whipping the other side of it. Okay, we've come down there to the middle of the hook. Long hook link, so we're going to go all the way back to the end of it and pass it through the eye of the hook. There we have the finished rig. Now, as you can see, the hair stands out almost vertically away from the hook. Now, if the hair had been coming out at that angle, it wouldn't sit quite right in the water. Remember, you're fishing a bait in the surface film and you want everything as flat as possible. So we want to put the bait tight to the back of the hook. I like to even bend this hair back on itself a little bit and get it like almost like that. We'll take a piece of silicone tube, thread that silicone on, run it all the way back down to the hook, and over the eye of the hook like that. Now, as you can hopefully see, what that does is it stops the hook link from kicking inwards and encourages it to point flat straight away out of the back of the hook. It's very inconspicuous, very low profile. If you use a normal knotless knot, then very often, well, I can show you, it kicks in like that. On the surface, it doesn't give you a great presentation. That angle's a bit unnatural, and I just like to smooth it all out with this small piece of silicone over the hook eye. We'll put a bait on now. When I'm fishing in amongst dog biscuits and largish type floaters, I like to employ a cut down boilie. It's the right colour. We'll cut it down afterwards. We'll put it onto the hair first of all. This is a squid and octopus one. We'll put him onto the rig, as again, as I said earlier, we want it to sit nice and tight to the back of the hook. So as you can see, that's touching the hook now, and you can see there's just enough room to get a hair stop through there. Okay, a nice small hair stop. Pass that through the loop to secure the bait. As you can see, we've got this just about right for the size of boilie, and that sits very, very tight on the back of the hook. Now what I do like to do is trim the boilie down, roughen it up a bit, make it look more like a biscuit. And we'll finish up with something like that. This is my favourite floater rig. I've had fish to over 36 pounds on this. Tie it up like this and give it a go.
This fella is called a throwing stick, used for propelling boilies out into the lake. You can get them an extremely long way when you get this right, over 150 yards if the bait's are the right consistency, and you can also put a lot of bait out very quickly. So to talk you through it, called the Easy Stick because it does get easier with practice. Very, very lightweight plastic, that's really important, makes the job so much easier. And then a very slim handle. Slimmer the handle, the less fatigue on your forearm. And then one new feature, we put a hole in the bottom. So that stops there being a vacuum that sucks the boilies back into the stick. So they go out of it a bit easier and go a bit further as well. So I've got a boilie caddy on with a couple of kilos of bait in it. At this point, I'm fishing about 70 yards out. I'm going to put 4 in at a time. And you see there with my feet, my weight's on my back foot. That's the way you should start. Back foot sort of parallel to the water, front foot pointing where you want it to go, almost like a cast, to be honest. And you'll see as I go through it, my weight will start on my back foot and it will transfer forwards just slightly. So first ones, I'm keeping them nice and low because I'm aiming into the wind. They were ever so slightly short. Out they go like that. That's about bang on. Basically, if you're fishing next to somebody that's putting these out one at a time, obviously you're baiting up 4 times faster than him. And what I tend to do is I work out how many baits get to the spot with maximum effort. So as hard as I can go, I'll just keep adding baits until it gets there. That's bang on, that's 5 at a time. So basically in the dark, I know that if I put 5 baits in at once and go as hard as I possibly can, they're going to go the same distance. Some people like to put 1 in at a time and judge the effort. I don't like doing that. I'd rather put more baits out quickly and put maximum effort and get the job done as quickly as possible. Now these baits have been dried out a little bit. This is mainline cell, and as a result of that, they don't split coming out the stick. But if they do, all you need to do is just dip the stick in the water and just wet the very end of it, and that reduces the backspin that's placed on the baits and stops them splitting. And these ones are going out absolutely perfect. I've started my session with about 4 kilos, and I'm putting another kilo out after every bite. And at this time of the day, I'm a few days in now, I'm putting out 2 or 3 key, but the weather is so good today, I'm going to put out 4 or 5. And if you just watch my stance as I'm going through, that's the thing to master. A lot of people put baits with a curved stick into the edge to start off with. If that happens, aim higher, aim at the tops of the trees rather than the marker float, and they will go further. If you just watch that transfer of weight, the other thing I'm doing is keeping my wrist locked. So I'm not doing that. That's what puts the baits into the edge. I'm keeping it locked all the time, and that's how they go out properly. Obviously you can use it single-handed as well, can't put quite as much force into it personally, but it tends to make your arm ache a little bit quicker, like that, so I tend to use 2 hands and it just spreads the load. And you don't end up with throwing stick arm, as we call it. So that's a throwing stick, great for boilies and great for putting them out quickly.
Every now and again an idea comes along that just makes me wet myself with excitement, and this one come from none other than Korda's very own sailor friend, Peter Regan. Peter, salt and water, what an idea, mate. Basically, the theory behind it is that you can mix any form of particle in with salty water and then apply it to PVA bags, and it won't melt the bags until obviously you cast that bag out into normal unsalty water, and then you've got a little carpet of food right by your hook bait. But let's put this theory into practice. Bait tub, water in it, just your good old bit of French salt here. I'm going to be quite liberal, about 2 teaspoons worth in the palm of my hand. In it goes into the water. Just move that around, ensure that the salt is dispersed nicely into that water. Now this is brilliant for those of you who are spodding or putting out particles such as tiger nuts. These are the Bait Tech growlers. They're obviously boiled in water, they're held in water, so they're generally always damp. So to be able to use them in PVA bags without too much hassle is a massive edge. So put them in there. Now, just going to take out a handful. That's enough for probably 5 or 6 PVA bags of tigers. In they go. Let them work into that salt. In they go. Right, we're going to use the original funnel web system. That's the largest of the 3. We've obviously got the boilie and the long chuck. This is the one I prefer to use a lot. It gives you a lot of versatility, even though the long chuck is really good for small bags and the boilie one also. You can also make this as small as you want. So what we're going to do now, just tie this off as I've got a tiny little hole in it. So in it goes into the PVA. Pull it down. And now normally that should have already melted, so it's looking good. Right, I've made a big loop there. Now I'm going to pull this nice and tight. So once this is immersed in water, it should in theory explode. Just like that carp's done on the surface, right in my swim. Another loop. So now we've got a lovely PVA bag there of tigers, nice and tight. Again, apparently you can just drop it straight into this salty water and it won't melt, like so. This will be the acid test. Come on then, Regan. He's only right. There we go, look. Had it in there for 10 or so seconds. Nothing's happened. But don't be alarmed. Once you put this out in the water, that's going to explode perfectly around there. And that means you can use sweet corn, hemp, particles, anything that's damp to start with. Put it in that salty water and you've got a perfect little bag to put over any sort of particle hook bait that you're using. What a massive, massive edge. Cheers, Regan.
These are my 2 favourite uses for the boilie funnel web, which is the medium size of funnel web. You know it's boilie obviously because it says it on the label, but also because it's got a green flash there on the label, and we've matched up the refills to go with it, so you've got a green flash on there. There's a hex mesh and a micro mesh refill for these, and they both come in either 5 metres or 20 metres on a spool. So basically the system comes in a protected cover. Inside it, if you haven't seen it before, you've got your PVA on the inner tube and then the compressor as well. Now the first use was what we originally designed the boilie funnel web for, and obviously as the name suggests, that was boilies. What I've got on there is a very, very clever stringer. So what we've basically done, we put 3 baits down the inner tube, pushed them down with the compressor and out the other end, and before I've tied the simple overhand knot to lock the top of that PVA together, I've basically pushed the boilies out of sync like that, so that when I push them back together again, it puts the boilies under even more tension. Then I tie the knot, making sure everything's nice and tight. A second knot, as you always do on the funnel web systems, cut between the 2 and your system's ready for another go. And then the PVA string is actually finished, so what I've then done is put the needle through the top boilie. I've used one of these heavy gate latch needles. That's gone through the top boilie, pulled the hair back through, and there I've put the hair stop in to stop the boilie getting off. So that one's permanently attached, that's on the hair, but the other 2 obviously are not. They're only attached via the PVA. So when that melts, the whole thing's going to explode and we're going to get a random pattern every single time we cast in. So rather than with a lot of stringers, the boilies are left in a line because the PVA string going through the middle contracts a little bit as it shrinks and pulls all the boilies together. This time, they're always going to spread a different way every time. And that's a great way to stop tangles, and also a great way to have a couple of baits around your hook bait when you're boilie fishing. Very, very underused method that. I know Terry Hearn uses that a hell of a lot when he's boilie fishing, and very, very effective. And then the next use for the boilie funnel web size is the classic PVA stick. Obviously Nick Hellier's invention to begin with, but there are loads of different stick mixes that have come out since then. And this is the one I want to show you now because it's brand new. The Entice from Bait Tech, a very, very meaty ground bait. Perfect as a ground bait. You can ball it out, you can use it as a stick mix, you can use it as a method mix or to stodge up your spod mix as well. There's liver powder in there, which we all know is a brilliant attractor for carp. There's aminos in there as well, and loads of meaty proteins, which makes it really, really attractive. So that's a brand new product, well worth looking out for. And that's my mix there. What I've basically done is used a little bit of tuna in there to begin with. The stuff I've used is in oil. That's because it's nice and sunny, so the water's very warm at the moment. In the winter, I'd use the stuff in brine. So I've smashed that up, then I've added the Entice to that. And to be honest, that'd be good enough. You know, those two ingredients together are brilliant. With that, I've added some very, very small betaine pellets. And then normally I would get a stick of Pepper Army and then blend it up in the crusher and put that in it. We haven't got any here at the moment, so I've just used the sausage off the barbecue this time, blended that up and put it in there so it's got even more meatiness to it. And a brilliant hook bait to go with that, you can see there, that would normally be a bit of Pepper Army on there. But we haven't got any here, so I've used just the end of a spicy French sausage, which I think would be brilliant as a hook bait. No good on here because there's loads of bream in here, but if you were fishing in a normal carp fishing situation in the UK or in some of the waters abroad where there's not the nuisance fish, that is a brilliant, brilliant combination. So that's the boilie funnel web system. If you use it correctly, it will get you loads more bites. And how about this fella for a fighting machine? 38 pounds, 15 ounces, a fish we call 234 because those really recognisable scales on his flank, tamed on a size 4 curve and the hybrid stiff hook link. Wicked. This is the brand new Mark II one-man Armo. Goes up the same as all the others, so put the ground chute out first, unfold the bivvy over the top of it, put the sections together, then the hooks go into the eyelets to give it that tension, put a couple of pegs in at the back and then come round to the front, put the pegs in the front eyelets and pull it up, and it's up literally in seconds. It's got a few new features to it. First of all, these nice Velcro straps for putting your rod under to stop the rod sliding off. And then this frame support system is more rigid than it's ever been, and it comes as standard with the bivvy as well. And then moving down here to these big mozzie panels at the front, they've zipped and Velcroed those, so when that panel comes down, it looks neat all the time. And then moving to the back of the bivvy, there's two big vents at the back there that you can roll up in weather like this. It keeps the bivvy much cooler because you've got air flowing all the way through. If the weather is nice, you can roll these sides up completely to give you a great view of the lake. And if we look inside, we've got a huge bed chair in there and there's still loads of room. Made in the Aquatex material, so the water just beads off of it and it comes in either a one-man or a two-man. And I think these will cope with virtually anything that carp fishing can throw at them. This is the latest version of the Quick Lock bed chair from Tracker. It's called Quick Lock. It's got a bar here that just helps it lock into different positions from chair right the way down to bed chair, literally in seconds. So we'll leave that in bed chair mode. They've updated it by putting this cover on it, so you've got this lovely fleecy padded section in the top 2/3 of it. The bottom third is still nylon, so if you get your muddy boots on there, you can just wipe it off. And like the original Quick Lock, you've got a separate compartment in there. That's for putting the airbed that comes with it. You can just blow that up a little bit to make it even more comfortable. Personally, I don't think it needs it. And also, extremely lightweight. Very, very lightweight. And just as it is now, super comfortable.
I don't know why, but I've become sort of known with hook baits and rolling them and everything else. It's been a big part of my fishing over the last 10 years or so, making my own custom hook baits. And this year I was faced with a little bit of a different quandary. I was fishing a lake called the Essex Manor, and fishing in the summer, I was seeing fish coming in the edge, moving in closely, and I was presenting fluoro pop-ups in front of them. And where the fish had been caught so many times during the spring on these bright baits, the fish were spooking off the spot, not even attempting to eat them. They were actually avoiding the area because there was a bright hook bait there. So that made me go back to the drawing board and think about what I could develop. I was using the Cell, these wonderful baits. Everyone knows how much I love them. So I wanted to do something that would match this boilie, but ultimately still stand out. So I won't keep you waiting any longer. In this tub, as you can see, are Cell hook baits with a slightly different tinge. Look, that's a normal Cell, and they're my hook baits. Slightly different in colour, but still not that blatant. They're very easy to do. They're slightly more balanced than normal sort of corkball bait. So let's run you through exactly how you do it. Firstly, you put half a tub of Polaris into a bag. So if you take that tub, halfway there, straight into a clear bag, then you get the Cell base mix. With that, I fill up a Polaris tub again, about a quarter full, with the base mix from the Cell. That both goes into the clear bag. I blow that bag up, give the whole lot a shake, make sure everything's mixed in. So now you've got Polaris, which is a floating base mix, and the Cell, which is a sinking base mix, all mixed in, basically a ratio of 2 to 1, okay? Once that's done, put the bag to the side and it's on to the mixing. First thing, crack a tiny little egg in. The one I had was the size of a sparrow's egg, but it'll do the job. In it went. Next, a tiny bit of brown colour. As you can see, the tinge is different, and that's how I get it. Normally, Mainline recommend a quarter of a teaspoon to a pound of mix. I'm actually using what I described to the guys, a hornet's eyelash worth, just a tiny bit of a fork just into the eggs. Then 15 ml of the Cell activator, that's put into the eggs. Normally, it's 15 ml of Cell to a pound of mix, which is normally 4 eggs, so you're making them 4 times as strong. Then finally, it's multi-stim. Multi-stim's an appetite stimulant. Normally in a food bait, it's brilliant because fish get on it, eat it, and it's stimulating them to eat more. But I've found in my hook baits, it works really, really well. So again, 15 ml of multi-stim. That sort of separates them from a standard Cell one out of the bag. Whisk it all up, get it all moving in, turn it all, make sure the colour's all dispersed, there's no lumps in there, everything's mixed in perfectly. The next job now is to start adding the base mix. Do it bit by bit, don't launch it all in so you end up with one big hard bit of paste. I've got a bit of paste that I've been rolling the baits with, which is just right now. Look, actually it's probably going a bit dry in the heat. But I add the paste bit by bit, nice and slowly, keep it working in there until I've got a paste that is slightly sticky to the touch. Because don't forget, when you're rolling corkball pop-ups, you're going to be rolling them maybe for half an hour to an hour, depending on how many you're going to do. So there's a chance it could dry up. So once the paste is right, you'll feel it. It'll be damp to the touch, okay? But over an hour, that'll dry up lovely and allow you to make lovely, lovely corkball pop-ups. So what I do, I take the 8mm corkballs that I'm using for them, drop them into a cup of water or whatever, just to let them soak it up. What that does, it allows the paste to stick to the cork ball, so you won't get any air bubbles inside it. Once that's done, take a small amount of paste, just lay it on my finger, on my hands, and then just put the cork ball straight into the middle, roll it round, and away you go. Do as many as you want. Finally, it's onto the boiling process. I like to do them in small batches, no more than sort of 10 baits at a time. They go into the boiling water for 90 seconds, out they go, onto a towel, dry them off, and that's where I'll often leave them for up to a week. What that allows, you can hear them in the tub. Hear that rat? There's no soft edges, they're just nice and loud, and that's because they've been dried off lovely, which means they go on the hair well, they get tied on easily, and they're resilient to the attention and nuisance fish, which stops them from peeling it off from around the cork ball. And to say the results on these have been brilliant would be an understatement. I've used them ever since I rolled them. Actually, the first time I did it was at Gigantica Lake when we were filming previously, and ever since that date, they've been producing fish everywhere I've gone, and I think it's that slight little twist, a little change that's made them stand out from a standard hook bait, and also they look safer than a fluoro. So my advice to you is get on the ball. There we have it, a dawn caught 20-pounder from Gigantica. This one's going to go in the stock pond, apart from the rearing program they've got in place. So any fish of this size are going in the stock pond, and in about a year this will be £30 for one of you to come and catch. But it fell foul to a new rig, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you now. Now, there's no use making funky hook baits if you ain't got a funky rig to put them on. And this one, like the muzzer, was shown to me by a friend. Dovey showed me the muzzer, and this one was shown to me by none other than Gaz Fairham. It's a rig he'd been using to great success on a number of waters around Yateley, and it's one that I've adopted on the venue I'm fishing, the Essex Manor. Again, the reason for changing over to something like this was that I wanted to fish pop-ups to get above the silkweed and stuff that I was faced with, but on the venue I was fishing, everyone was using the chod rig, and I just think the fish had got completely used to it. A lot of fish are getting lost, a lot of hook pulls, just this general stuff that you think's going on underwater, fish just getting nicked in the edge of the mouth. So you need, I personally need another solution, something to make it happen. So this is the little rig that I've adopted off Gaz. It's very similar to the concept of the 360 rig. However, the 360 is very dangerous. It gets caught up in the net, it tears fish's mouths, which is, you know, an absolute nightmare. You don't want to be using something like that. But this one, really easy to do. It incorporates a micro swivel at the first point. So what I do is I take off 4 inches of supernatural hook link, 18 pound, and then tie on the micro swivel with a 2-turn grinner straight on the end. The next job is to put that onto the hook itself. So I've just fed that over the point and it's running in there. Now the strange bit here is you're actually going to start a knotless knot in reverse. So with the swivel facing in and the hair, or sorry, the hook link running up, I'll go through the front of the eye and then whip the knotless knot as normal and then come back through the back of the eye towards the point. So it's the start of it's in reverse. So you end up, as you can see, with the material on the inside. The next job is the most complicated job. Basically, what we're going to be doing is adding the supernatural to IQ. I've used the IQ. I like the fact that obviously it's a fluorocarbon, it's invisible, and the 15 pounds quite supple. So even though it's you know, stiff enough to keep the hook link away from the lead and stop tangles, it's also supple enough to take up the contours of the bottom, so it gives you a bit of versatility. The knot that you're using is something called the Albright knot. It's actually really easy to do. It looks quite complicated, but what you do is you make a loop at the end of the fluorocarbon, fold it back on itself, so you're just pinching a loop in your hands, and then simply you feed the supernatural through the loop and then wrap it around the body of the loop 7 times, and then ensure you put the tag end back through the top of the loop the same direction as the hook's coming through. And then all you do is just gingerly work that knot down. It's really easy to do. Just work it down, wet it, and ensure it all bunches up neatly. It isn't sort of tangled up or cutting into itself, and then just slowly draw it down, pull it tight with a puller tool, and you've got a perfect combi rig. It's all up together, lovely, looks the nuts. So basically I pull that nice and tight, and then just a little bit of putty over the top. Now when I'm doing that, what I try to do is to put more putty on than I think I'm going to need for the pop-up. So I'll put it on to start with, and then simply it's time to put the bait on. There's one of the Cell little cork balls that I tied up. This time all I do, take a bit of hair braid, put it through the eye of the swivel, the other end of the micro swivel, pull it straight, thread the boilie onto it with a normal braided needle, pull it on, and then as you can see, look, I've just plugged the swivel in there, pull that down, and I'll make a little granny loop at the end of the hair braid, and then simply just trap the boilie stop in there, pull it down, a couple more knots to secure it, and then with a lighter, just blob the end of it, so it's all neat and tidy like that. Job's a good one. And then finally, the key part for me is to get it balanced and balanced perfectly. So like I said, I put more putty on than I need. I'll then test it in the edge, and I'll keep pinching bits of putty off until it's sinking, almost like that, just ever so slowly. And what you find when you're feeding boilies, fish are coming in and hoovering, they're picking up different sizes of baits. That's something I've always told you how to fish, is put multi-size of boilies out there. It gets fish rooting around and looking for different sizes. And then they come across this one, it's balanced perfectly. Wolf, it's in the back of the mouth, and you've hooked them. Job done. So rig, well worth trying, get on it. Well, there we have it, 28 pounds 4 ounces. They're getting bigger, taking on that combi rig again, this time with a little muzzer effect and a little KD rig setup. Awesome carp, and hopefully there might be a bigger one yet to come. Brilliant.
Rig tubing is a not much used product nowadays. Everyone seems to be on lead core or safe zone leaders, and it's still got a valid place in carp fishing. This rig itself has got rig tubing on it, and a lot of the lakes I fish, leaders are banned, so you can't use anything like leg core or safe zone, and it doesn't make the slightest bit of difference. In fact, in some occasions rig tubing is actually better because it's thicker than the other things that you can use behind the lead, and as a result that means it's better for anti-tangle. So what we're going to do after I get this fella in is show you how I set it up. There's a product available called a lead clip action pack, so if you've never fished with tubing or anything like that before, it's all included in one pack, and it's very, very simplistic to set up. So this fella's getting close in now, so I'm going to concentrate on this for a minute and hopefully show you what's hanging on the end. Come on, get in the net, get in the net. Oh yes, got him, come on. Well chuffed with that one, that's a real good fish and a very pretty one too. Well, they don't get much prettier than this. Absolutely stunning, 28 pounds, 12 ounces. My first fully scaled out of Gigantica, and hopefully it won't be the last. So we're gonna get this fella back and then get on with that rig tubing. The lead clip system has to be the most versatile when carp fishing. It's also very, very simplistic to set up. The components of the lead system there, minus the lead, come together in something called a lead clip action pack. So you get 5 swivels, 5 lead clips, 5 rubbers and enough tubing to make 5 rigs. So to talk you through how to put it together, first of all, thread on your tubing. And what I always do is warm the tubing through my hands a little bit to straighten it once I've cut it off, so it makes it easier to thread. And always with the line, always stretch the line out, straighten it out as much as you can, and never bite it and try and thread it through. Always cut it with a pair of sharp scissors and it should thread through really easily. And what I do with tubing that I've already used, to make it easy to re-thread it, because sometimes you get dirt and grime go up the inside of it and it makes it hard to re-thread, I leave a bit of mono on the inside of it, and then I just tie that mono to the main line and drag the main line through it next time I want to use it. Good little tip there. So next on goes the rubber connector, and then our lead clip is slid on, and then I've tied on the size 8 Korda swivel that comes in the lead clip action pack, just with a Palomar knot. That's my favourite knot for tying mono to the eye of a swivel, and I've pulled that back inside until it clicks. That's absolutely vitally important. If it doesn't click, what's going to happen, the swivel's going to pull out before the lead comes off the lead clip, and the rig's going to turn into a running rig, and you're not going to dump the lead as it's intended to do. So if I can just show you how it should work, if I just hold the lead there and pull against it, that's what should happen if the lead gets snagged up when you're playing a fish. If that swivel's not in there tight enough, that will pull out first and it will run backwards and forwards, the lead will stay snagged and you'll probably lose the fish. It also means you can take the lead on and off when you're not fishing so it doesn't rattle around on the rod, and it means you can change the shape and weight of the lead very, very easily as well. Works on all different kinds of bottoms, gravel bottoms, clay, weed, seal, absolutely everything. I'll just change the size and style of the lead depending on what I'm fishing on. So if it's very, very soft, I use the lightest lead I can. If I've got to fish a long way out, I use a heavy lead as well. One other important thing to mention about this, no super glue is required whatsoever. If you put super glue on the tubing or the rubber connector, that's going to make it brittle and it will probably snap. And also in between sessions, everything will dry out. So you need to wet the lead clip with saliva before you use it again, before you cast it out in the lake. And always do the test I've just done and make sure that it's going to dump the lead. And then on the other end of it, I've just attached a quick link to that. I've got a link loop tied in the end of the hook link. If I just show you that, pull that 3mm silicone sleeve out of the way. I'm a big fan of a quick change system, so you can take the hook link on and off very easily. And I've just tied a link loop onto the end of that hybrid soft hook link with just a 3 or 4 turn half blood knot, the first knot you ever learnt when you started fishing, and that tightens down beautifully and gives you 20-pound breaking strain. So if you've not used lead systems before, not tied them up yourself before, that's the one that I recommend. Very simplistic and very effective too. And how about that for a monster? Fish called Droptail, 55 pounds, my first 50 out of Gigantica. Absolutely over the moon to get this one. Taken on a barbless size 4 long shank X, so I just squeezed the barb down on a long hybrid hook link and that all important cell hook bait. Wicked, what a carp.
check it here with the founder of the Muzzer, Dovey. Last year I managed to talk about this, but I stole your thunder a little bit, mate, didn't I?
Bit, you always do, didn't you?
Yeah, but it was a rig that you'd show me, and it's a rig that served me very well, but I think it's only right that you put everyone to rights on exactly how it works and why it works so well. So firstly, let's talk about how you tie it.
Right, okay, basically it's a standard knotless knot, but whipping it KD style. So you whip twice, pull the hair back, and then whip up the shank without the hair trapped underneath it.
Okay, okay.
So the only difference between a knotless knot is that the hair's not trapped all the way underneath the whipping, so it comes out sort of near the eye.
Yeah, so you've got this claw-like effect, haven't you? It's exiting near the eye. Now, why is that, Tom? Because obviously it's called the Muzzer for a reason.
Yeah, well, it looks like a mushroom, that's why I think you named it, Ali.
Yeah. I did, thank you.
Right, the whole reason behind the rig is that the hook bait is critically balanced, so it doesn't weigh anything.
Yep.
Which makes the eye of the hook light as well.
So it's as it lays down, let's have a look at it. As it's on the bottom, that's going to sit up a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it does
this
sit
way
really
up.
weird, and it doesn't look right in the water, but when it goes into the fish's mouth, it acts right.
So with that cork, that's making the eye of the hook even lighter, which
in turn makes the point
heavy. So it's as it goes into a fish's mouth, that's wafting about, and that hook is unnaturally causing them problems, isn't it? Yeah. Right, and why do you think that works so well, Tom?
Because it's completely different to how everybody's been fishing rigs. Like about 2 years ago, if you remember rightly, everyone was fishing the silicone around the...
Yeah, almost like that, coming, obviously with a longer hair.
So it was something different, and it worked straight away.
Do you think a lot of it's down to the freedom of the hook, that it's got so much movement that it can cause that much extra trouble for fish?
Yeah, it does, but you've got to fish the rig in the right situation as well, with the boilies and the spreading the baits out, because it does only work if you've got the fish moving. It's not... I wouldn't fish that style of rig on a very short hook link, fishing over particle.
Hasn't got the freedom.
No, exactly.
Okay, now, how do you actually, cut into the boilie? What's the process? How much cork do you actually put in, Tom?
I've got an 8mm drill bit, and I'll drill out about 2/3 of the way through, and then cut the cork about the same length as the boilie. So when you put the cork into the boilie, it will go 2/3 of the way through and then stick out the bottom a little bit to make that side of the bait light. Right,
okay. And finally, Tom, why do you actually fish critically balanced baits over boilies? Why not a straight bottom bait when you're feeding a lot of bottom baits?
Because the only difference between your bait and the boilies out there is the weight of the hook. So as soon as you take the weight of the hook away, it's exactly the same as every other bait out there.
So, when they do take it in, there's nothing to alarm them that it could be something dangerous.
No, exactly.
Right, brilliant. Well, all hail the magic of the Muzzer.
Well, yes, another blistering take on a sunny Gigantica afternoon, and another fish taken on a swivel lead. And what we're going to look at in a minute, once I've got this fella in, is when to use a swivel lead and when to use an inline, because Gigantica is one of those rare places where both work extremely well, but certain rigs do suit certain lakes, and when we've landed this fish, we'll have a look at why that is. Gotcha! Wicked. Another one on the swivel lead. A long, lean fighting machine, just over 23 pounds, taking on a cell boilie again, and a lead clip system. So let's have a look at when to use an inline and when to use a swivel lead. We're going to look now at the difference between an inline lead and a swivel lead. So first of all, a classic inline. That's one of our Skyliner leads there. Very, very simplistic to set up. There's only 3 components to that: the lead itself, which has got a hard insert inside it, the rubber connector on the top, which simply pushes on, and then the rig tubing, which pushes into the end of that. And the reason for the rig tubing is to stop the rig tangling in flight, and also to protect the fish when you're playing it. The tubing will be rubbing up and down it rather than the line, so there's far less risk of cutting into the fish or lifting any scales. And the thing that makes an inline so good, if I hold that up for you like that, can you see how streamlined that is? How we go from the thickness of that rig tube to the thickness of the lead with no lip or anything for the hook link to catch on. So if that hook link's flying around on the cast, even if it does wrap around, the whole lot's going to slide back off it again. So very, very simple to set up. Very good anti-tangle as well. And the other advantage, if I just put that in my hand, with any inline lead, when the fish picks up the weight of the lead, it's always picking it up from the heavy end first. And these particular inlines that we sell have got an insert that goes right up inside it, so the swivel disappears inside it. It's still safe. If I just pull that, that comes out of there very easily. So you'll probably find on the take that will pull out and the lead will slide up the line a little bit, but it will travel back down again as you play the fish. So inlines want to be used on a hard bottom, and the reason for that is when that lead starts to penetrate, if that the heavy part first is going to penetrate first, so that's going to take more of the hook link into the soft stuff, into the weed or into the silt. So that wants to be reserved really for hard gravel bottoms, or if there's a small layer of weed, they're fine, but if it's soft on the bottom at all, I wouldn't use an inline. And the other reason I wouldn't use an inline is if I'm casting a long way, because when you're casting, the resistance that you get off of the hook bait is actually pulling the nose of the lead off course. So as you cast out, you can actually see it pulling it up slightly, and that means it's not going to go quite as far. So multi-range lead, up to probably 100 yards, something like that. Great on hard gravel bottoms and very, very easy to set up. And then moving over to the swivel lead version, got the same shape of lead. As an inline, it's called a skyliner. As a swivel lead, it's called a swivel distance. But can you see there, we've got that set up on a lead clip. Probably the most versatile system for carp fishing. One, because you can take the lead on and off very easily. If I remove that rubber, the lead will come off easily, so you can change the design and the size of the lead very easily. And it also means if you set it up correctly, the lead will eject if it gets snagged in something when you're playing a fish. So the fish will actually pull the lead off and then you carry on playing the fish. And of course you can then take the lead off at the end of a fishing session as well. Oh, one just showed right over the top of my spot there. I'm going to get a bite in a minute. But for casting, can you see there, if I hold the end of the lead and then you see the resistance coming from the hook bait there, we're slowing everything down. That's unavoidable, but it's not pulling the nose of the lead off course because the hook link is attached to the back end of the lead. So this rig will cast further than an inline. The downside is, if we put it on a gravel bottom, when the fish is picking the lead up, it's always picking it up from the thin end first. So it doesn't have as instant a bolt effect as an inline. So there's a bit of a payoff there. You've got to decide, do you want to cast further? Do you want to eject the lead? If that's the case, you need to use a swivel lead on a lead clip. And then finally, for casting as far as you possibly can, if I can just leave that lead there, that's the last swivel lead version where I've actually removed the swivel. So we've got a helicopter rig there, named because the hook link actually rotates it around like the blades of a helicopter. Having the lead on the end of the line means it will cast the furthest possible. It just reduces the resistance, it goes out, it's more streamlined, and it will just cast that bit further than a lead clip system. Very easy to set up. This one's on a safe zone leader. All the beads and everything come on that safe zone leader to make it very, very simplistic to set up. I've cut the swivel off the lead to stop it from doing that. Every lead will wobble a little bit at the start of flight. If you cut the swivel off, it reduces that wobble. And can you just see just how neat that is? Nothing for the hook link to tangle on. And I've replaced the swivel on the hook link. I've replaced that with one of these ring clips. And if I just pull that little bit of silicone out of the way, just to expose how I've joined the two together, I've got my favourite link loop on the end of the hook link, and that's just attached to a ring clip there, so I can take it on and off without having to cut the whole thing off. So that's the general rule of thumb. Inlines for hard gravel bottoms, and for when you're sort of short to medium range fishing, a lead clip if you've got to eject the lead, and if you're going for maximum distance, a helicopter rig. And there we have it, a stunning mid-20 common, taken on an inline lead that pulled that hook over and absolutely nailed it in the bottom lip. A proper stunner that fought like a demon.